We are at the National Alliance of Relationship and Marriage Educators Summit. That's a mouthful, but we are getting a brainful of information today, all of us here, and we are privileged now to have the president of the NARMI Association with us. Her name is Joneen Mackenzie. Welcome, Joneen.
Thank you for being here. I love being here.
You're very welcome. And of course, we've got Angelo again, helping coordinate everything and adding some spice to the interview as well.
That's right. The longer we go, maybe we'll have some jokes thrown.
Exactly. Yeah, we get more and more comfortable. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad, but Joneen, as the president of an organization who's focused on educating people about relationships and marriage issues, she has some intel that all of us do not have. And so I was hoping to kind of pull that out today, Joneen. So after the conference, what's sort of top of mind for you in this space that our listeners would be interested in?
Well, it's all about issues of the heart. Marriage and family. Yes, it's all about that. But it's all about the longing of your heart. And we are hardwired to connect as humans. And marriage and family formation and fatherhood and healthy and safe and stable families actually does that for the human heart when it's done well. The problem is, or the challenge that we have, is that a lot of people don't even like marriage. And why don't they even like marriage? Because they don't do it well. Okay, you don't like tennis if you don't do it well.
Right. Yeah, there's something about that.
Yeah, you don't like pickleball if you don't do it well. So what we are about is providing the services and the skills so that you can do it well.
And overcoming those other narratives out there. You say, if you don't like doing it well, what if someone else doesn't like it? And they're saying, oh, tennis is horrible. That's a dumb sport, or pickleball is dumb. And then there are people listening to that narrative. And so we want to get a true message of what marriage is really about. And it's not necessarily what some other people think it's about. I mean, it's all about relationship. Like you said, we're hardwired by our Creator to do life a certain way. And so we're here to learn about that. And it's amazing that you are a great leader in this effort. And it's been a joy to be around you and see you operate, and all of the great speakers here. So it's been a great experience for us. This was our first year here. And of course, I'm familiar with the organization and all of the little sub-organizations that are working together. And so it's great to see it all happening all at once. And again, we're in day 2 now, and just the workshops and everything, high quality, amazing speakers, highly sought after, intelligent men and women. And it's just a great experience overall. I want to say thank you, Joneen, for heading up this organization and for allowing us to be a part of it.
Oh my gosh, what a delight to have you here, because the more people that know the data, because NARMI's not necessarily a Christian organization or even a religious organization. We are a secular nonprofit, but what we do is we appeal to the secular and the sacred. And of course, churches will talk about marriage, but actually it's a social good. It actually reduces chaos.
For everyone.
For everyone, especially children. And it's for the children, ketchup is for the children, and school lunches is for the children, and everything's for the children. This is really for the children.
Absolutely.
What was cool is we all have marriage in mind, and that's on the table, right? We want to make sure that marriages are flourishing and doing well. But the secondary effect is children. They were talking about when there are stable marriages and families, and even Dennis, one of the board members, was saying that this couple had a child that was getting in trouble at school, and the counselor was having to reprimand them regularly, and then he started meeting with the couple, and just in a few short amount of weeks, there was a change in the child's behavior for the good, and they were like, what are you doing? Why is this kid doing so well now? And the only thing they could figure out is they were getting that counseling to strengthen and encourage their marriage. And they were like, We want to know what you're doing because we have all these other kids that are doing the same thing. And if you can be successful with that child, then we'd like to see if we could be successful with other children. So it's a secondary reaction to the problem that we're having. But when you apply the right solution, then all the relationships are affected, including and especially the children.
Right. Well, I think about some of the social challenges that the country has been grappling with for a very long time. And think about crime. Think about education. We want all children to succeed educationally. Think about depression and anxiety and health issues, obesity. All of these things we have data points for, that if marriages were healthy and people were marrying and not divorcing and not having babies outside of a marriage, we would have educational achievement, high educational achievement, just like what you said. When marriages are stable and kids have a desk and they have a good night's sleep and they get a good breakfast and their parents value education and they have a space to do their homework, guess what happens? The education of this child goes up, the nation gets smarter. And right now, listen to this, we as taxpayers are paying $80 billion a year for the Department of Education. And the last 10 years, they've had some good outcomes, but the last 10 years, they've had zero outcomes. You cannot find an inner city kid in Chicago, Baltimore, some of these inner cities who can read on grade level, okay? And everybody's wringing their hands and they want more money. When what you're talking about, Jerry, is actually the solution. Okay, and then I'm going to compare. There are some marriage grants. There's marriage and fatherhood grants. It's $150 million. Think about this, 80 billion versus 150 million. I'm insulted. I'm triggered. I'm offended. Okay, and we're going to the Department of Education and we're saying we want 1 billion and we want a lot of oversight and we want to be responsible for this money because this is precious money coming from the lifeblood of the workers in this country.
Amen.
Right? And we want to highlight marriage and family formation to prevent poverty, to prevent crime, to prevent domestic violence, to increase academic achievement, to all those things. Child welfare is so important to this country. We spend close to $1 trillion on child welfare between welfare, TANF assistance, SNAP, WIC. Think about all the 80 means-tested programs. And people are getting tired of paying this money with no outcomes.
Right. And you've got the data.
We've got the data. We've got the data.
So you have the data that shows there's no outcomes, but you also have data that shows where it's working, correct?
And not only that, there's data to show that investing in marital wellness benefits not only the couple, but the family. Your kids are going to do better in school. The family's going to be healthier and wealthier and wiser, and they're going to be more successful. And when you have a stable mother and father and children, the chances of them going into poverty is minimal compared to a broken family. It's almost assured that they're going to delve into poverty. And homes that are fatherless, you got 90-something% of the folks in prison come from fatherless homes. It's just one thing after another. Domestic violence is reduced when you have stable, healthy relationships, like all of that stuff. But for every dollar that a company, there was a study done by Olson and Turvey, for every dollar that they're investing in a company's marital wellness, they're getting $4 or $5, $6, up to $7 per dollar investment of the bottom line of that company. So companies do well when their company invests in those marital wellness of those employees, because they're not spending time on the phone or the split home and the kids and the lawyer and dealing with the school and the behavioral issues. That's causing that company a lot of money, just like our state. And if it works for business, then why can't we implement that in our state instead of spending millions and billions of dollars trying to Band-Aid up a bloody mess? Why aren't we doing some prevention?
Actually, well, let me just tell you, I founded the Center for Relationship Education years and years ago, 30 years ago, and created curricula. It's called Real Essentials, Relationship Education and Leadership. And why did I do that? This is kind of a long story, but why did I do that? Well, I did that because I'm a nurse by trade. I had 4 children in 6 years, and I was married to a brain surgeon, and he was working many, many hours, and somebody had to be home with the kids. And so I gave up my career to stay home with the kids, but I was very involved in my community. I was PTA president. My 7th grade son comes home with a permission slip to learn about his body in science class. And I said, "You're supposed to learn about your body in science class. Why am I getting a permission slip?" And so I went to go look at why, because other parents might have an issue as well. And I found that the curriculum was about reproductive science. It was about body parts, reproductive body parts, and then it was about condoms. And I said to the teacher, "How do you get from body parts to condoms? They're missing a piece." Because I've been teaching this curriculum for a long time, and then I investigated the curriculum, and the curriculum came from a group that we don't really agree with. I said, no, not with my child. No. And I'm not going to opt him out. I'm going to, and I was teaching Red Cross babysitting, I was teaching first aid, I was teaching all these enrichment classes. I asked the parents if I could bring the kids, I was going to ask them some really pointed questions. I had the pizza potluck at my house. I had 67 kids. And I said, okay, after they were well fed, I said, because you have to feed them first.
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys want to know about sex? And I'm going to get back to the company in a minute. Okay, what do you want? And I said, I know this is an awkward question. Adults don't ever ask kids this question. Nothing's going to embarrass me. I'm never going to embarrass you. And no judgments. And I'm good with awkward. If there's silence, I'm good with awkward. And then maybe 40 seconds went by, and here's what this kid said. And I'll never forget it. He said, "Does anybody stay together anymore?" And it went right to the heart. And as soon as he went to the heart issue, it opened the door for vulnerability. And I don't know if you know Brene Brown, vulnerability is really where we live. And anyway, 70 questions from 67 kids about how you can stay in love, how do you date, how do you tell somebody you like them, how do you, right? And great questions. And that was in 1991. I had no Google. I couldn't Google it. So I had to go I found the University of Denver and Scott Stanley, and I became beyond a groupie. I became a stalker. And I said, I need 5 skills for friendship. And I put those skills in fun activities and went back to the school and said, can I teach this? They knew I was a person of faith. They thought I was going to do the Jesus thing. And I didn't do the Jesus thing. I did the data thing. Okay, the kids loved it. The parents loved it. They did a cover story in the Denver Post about it. And within a year, I had invitations from 40 schools.
So that's how you became an educator.
That's how I became.
You went from nurse
right,
to educator
right.
in that moment.
In that moment. And when we started doing this in the schools and became a system, every time I got new activities and I went back to the school, we found, so the behavior changed. Behavior in the school changed. Bullying went down. Kids were doing better on spelling. Kids were more friendly with each other. There wasn't any cliques. And so the teachers were saying there's a difference in their behavior. And since that time, we have created all kinds of curriculum. So COVID comes, and then thankfully we got out of COVID. And now nobody wants to go back to the offices. Everybody wants to work from home. Well, there's all these empty buildings, and corporate executives call us and say, how do I get my people back to work, back in the building? Okay, because we were hosting chamber events at our office because we had a beautiful office with a training center, and we would host chamber events at the office. And how do we get them back? And said, well, let's do some focus groups. Let's find out why. Like what I asked the kids, let's now ask the workers, why aren't you coming back to the office? And they said, well, it was complex. A lot of it was gas and flexibility, but number one reason, I don't like the people I work with. I don't get along with these people.
Wow.
And so we created a curriculum that was for the corporate world. And it's the same transferable skills that we did with the 7th graders. Okay? Issues of the heart never ages. And, right? The heart is the heart is the heart. All these people crying today with the Pass It On Foundation.
Right.
Okay, all those commercials. And if anybody, your audience wants to go to values.com, Pass It On Foundation, these are free resources you can use with your church, with your small group, with any of your young life, any of your groups. It goes directly to the heart. People were crying in this audience. Tissues were coming out. We were here sniffling. But we use that Olson study, and the Olson study says it's $30,000. That was years ago. If a divorce happens in the workplace, it costs the corporation $30,000 in risk mitigation.
And if there are people that are higher up in the company, it's even
more expensive, right? Because they're out of the office. There's risk mitigate. There's unintended depression and absenteeism, and I got to go to court, and it's all that chaos, right? So companies are really interested in this for the bottom line.
Right.
So
they know the facts when they realize that that's impacting them, and they don't have any idea.
Right. And so that's our next. Think about this for a moment. We are the National Alliance for Relationship and Marriage Education.
Mm-hmm.
We're not an association. We're an alliance. What does an alliance mean? You collaborate with a lot of people. So guess who we're getting involved? The National Realtors Association. Why would they want to be involved with the NARMI? Why would they want? Because 75% of people who buy homes are married. It affects their bottom line.
Right.
Okay, what about the National Bridal Retailers Association? Okay, David's Bridal is on the verge of Chapter 11.
So all these people are stakeholders in the whole situation. So they're all very willing to, and they know the benefit of marriage, right?
If you make it not about religion, although with the faith community you do, okay?
Right. And we know that at baseline it is, God made it.
Correct.
Love that.
All of that. But God is so cool in that everything's affected. When you don't do it His way, everything's affected.
Right.
Right? And so the economy's affected. Think about climate change. To appeal to the left with 2 houses because you got divorced, 2 houses, the kids have to go back and forth. That's a carbon footprint.
Right. Get their attention, I suppose.
That's one way, right?
That's one way.
It's efficient. We have to look at efficiency, not just religiosity, but efficiency of what creates calm. And that's part of the learning, and the heart does not flourish in chaos.
Right.
And neither does the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't that where we live, is the heart and the brain? Okay? It doesn't flourish in chaos. And so we try to do the stabilization. And how do you stabilize? Through skill building. Through skill building. When I found out that there was actual research, a whole body of literature about what makes relationships work and what makes relationships fail, then I said, this is how I did relationships. Hi, I think you're cute. I like your car. I think your mother likes me. Let's figure out a way to do it in a more skillful way. And that's what a lot of the breakouts are about, the skills that we're imparting,
right?
Especially to the least among us who don't have the resources to go to counseling and kind of marinate in their problems. We don't want to marinate in problems. We want to find a solution. And that's what NARMI's all about.
Amen. Okay, so for the benefit of our listeners, the education that NARMI provides, how does it affect them? I mean, you guys are this high-level organization. How does it affect people on the street?
Well, first of all, this is not a conference for the end user. In other words, we don't teach relationship skills here.
Right.
This is for the practitioners. These are for teachers, for grantees, for those people who are the servers, for the people who serve. And so this is an exchange of ideas. Okay, this conference becomes an exchange of ideas. It becomes a way to network. And one of the goals we have in NARMI is to reduce territorial tendencies, right? Look, there's enough dysfunction for all of us, okay? Let's figure out a way to, if you're doing something similar that I'm doing, let's collaborate. Let's not compete.
So you're saying relationship and marriage educators may have a tendency to compete?
Everybody has a tendency to compete. Everybody has a tendency to compete. Oh my gosh, you're taking some of my business. You're taking some. You know what? We're all here for the same purpose. It's like building a highway that has lots of lanes, but we're all going to the same place. let's all go to the same place together because those highways are efficient. When you have a one-lane highway, it's not efficient. Not only do we want to be data-driven, we want to be efficient, we want to create sustainability, we want to create scalability, replicatability, so everybody has this. And then we have to get to the business owners, we got to get to the commercial people, we got to get to the media to say, stop bashing marriage. Even the jokes. I go to Rotary, and the guy comes up and goes, oh, it's been a while since I've had sex or something like that. And they're bashing their wives in public, or wives bashing their husbands in public. And so jokingly, I go, stop that. Stop. I try to say joke, stop that. Kids are listening. You have kids in Rotary, young interns, young college kids, and they're saying these things in front of them. That gets internalized. That's like you saying everybody's bashing it. You don't have to bash it.
Yeah, and it's in the media, and it's all over the place. And Brad Wilcox was talking about it. I mean, there is good data that good marriages do good in our society, not like the narratives that they're saying. There's several of those comedies that I've watched over the years, and I've started to get a little sick of watching it because they're constantly bashing the men or the marriage relationship or just creating an unhealthy situation and making light of it like it's okay. And that's not good for marriage.
Well, let me just say, here's what we say to young people, because we got to go upstream. Okay, you've got to go upstream. We say to young people, look, I know your parents were whacked. I know you came from divorce. Maybe your grandparents were divorced, and divorce is everywhere. Or broken families are never married, and all these, drama fests, got a drama fest going on, lots of chaos. You can change the cycle.
That's right.
And here's how. You don't have to have the marriage of the 50s. You can have a marriage like a canvas. You make it. It doesn't have to be gender-specific norms like, women do this and men do this. This is a partnership. I mean, when I got remarried, okay, because my husband left, and that's why I'm so passionate about this, because I dealt with the depression and all that. But I did it a new way, and I said, you know what, I don't think I want to be a wife. I need a wife. I don't want to be a wife. And my husband said to me, at that time, he was my man friend. I don't like to say boyfriend. And he said, I'll be your wife. I will do the cooking. I will go to the grocery store. I know you're doing tons of things for the world. I can do this. And I said, you would do that? Yes. And I said, okay, you're it. Tag team, you're it. But see, we could change the perception of marriage. You can design it yourself.
As long as you are addressing the matters of the heart.
As long as you're addressing that and both people are getting their needs met.
And it's more than a partnership in quotes, right?
Right.
That just may be how it's effective and is played out. But it's a two becoming one, right?
Right.
It's a team and it's a loving partner. And so I know that's what you mean.
Yeah, it's just doing whatever it takes to support each other, whatever it takes.
So we got about 30 seconds left. Can you tell us if there are educators listening right now and they want to learn more about NARMI and maybe they want to come to the next conference or get materials, where do they go?
NARMI.org, all lowercase, NARMI.org. They can sign up for the newsletter. We send a newsletter out every Monday. And it's no cost, and we make it we put studies in there, and it's embedded with a lot of information. NARMI.org.
NARME.org.
Correct.
Very good. Thank you, Joneen Mackenzie. Thank you, my friend Jerry Angelo. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.